Hello and welcome, Pokemon fans. There are those who call me Bard Breaker, and it's time for another Sunday Pokemon Challenge run. Last week, we successfully beat through Pokemon Sapphire using just a single Gulpin, and that actually got surprisingly difficult at times. So on the heels of that rather difficult run, let's go back to Gen 1 and do another one that I think is going to be pretty difficult, if for no other reason than the amount of luck that's going to be required to do it. And in fact, we're going to do a multi-Pokemon run. I haven't done one of those since my critical hit only run. Today we're going to ask and answer the question, can I beat Pokemon Yellow by using only the one-hit knockout moves? In Pokemon today, there are 4 attacks which can cause an instant one-hit knockout if they land their mark. 3 were introduced back in Generation 1, which is where we'll be playing today. Those 3 moves are Fissure, a ground-type attack, Guillotine, a normal-type attack, and Horn Drill, also a normal-type attack. These attacks are all capable of landing an instant one-hit knockout move, but you do have to actually land the attack in order to make it work. And as such, the accuracy is appropriately abysmal, a mere 30%. So if you thought Thunder missed a lot with its 70% accuracy, just wait until you see how much these moves miss. And if that accuracy wasn't bad enough, unlike in later gens where it changes based on level, in Generation 1, these moves will automatically fail if our target is faster than the user. This means that if the opponent outspeeds us, our attack is guaranteed to fail. So let's go ahead and dive right into the rules and explain how this run is going to work. As far as Pokemon are concerned, since the actual percentage chance you could do this with a single Pokemon is virtually 0, I'm going to allow myself to use as many Pokemon as I want. The only restriction is that they must be able to learn at least one of the one-hit knockout moves. As usual, I'll also need some other utility Pokemon along the way for HMs, but I can't use those Pokemon in battle unless they can learn one of the aforementioned one-hit knockout moves. Now, as far as battling is concerned, here's where things are going to get a little interesting, so bear with me as I break this down. For all mandatory battles which are required to progress through the game, I must only use the one-hit knockout moves. However, with that being said, in order to preserve just the ever so smallest shred of my sanity, and to keep this run from taking literally 100 years to complete, I am going to allow myself the use of any regular moves I want in optional battles only. This includes any wild encounters, as well as any otherwise optional trainers who you would normally be able to avoid and skip and still beat the game. This way works out well enough. Lastly, for the rules, I won't be using any cheats, glitches, or exploits, aside from making 2 small modifications to set this run up so that it will even be possible. All that being said, I remind you guys that I write the script as I go, and at this point I haven't started playing the game yet. Take your guesses down below to please the almighty algorithm, god of the YouTube algorithm, and let me know if you think I can do this or not. I'm gonna say that I can, but we're probably gonna have to take an ungodly amount of resets to get there. In fact, if future me is feeling up to it, I'll actually put a reset counter on the screen and update it after every mandatory fight, even if I don't actually end up including every mandatory trainer in the final video. Let's do it. So to start the run off, I've used the Universal Pokemon Randomizer to replace Pikachu with Poliwhirl so that we can do the whole run with our one-hit knockout moves. At this point, I've also used a save editor to edit in the move Fissure into Poliwhirl's moveset. This is going to be the extent of our cheats and modifications for the run, and this has all been done before our very first battle. I've set the run up like this simply because otherwise it would have literally been impossible to do. We'll have to hit Ghosts when we get to Lavender Tower, and since Horn Drill and Guillotine are both normal moves, they won't hit Ghosts, so we have to use the ground-type move Fissure. Fortunately, Ghosts do not have the ability Levitate in Generation 1. In fact, there are no abilities, period. The reason I've had to hack Fissure in though is because unlike in all subsequent games, in Generation 1, nothing actually learns it by level up, and you don't get the TM for it until you beat Giovanni all the way at the end when you beat him in Viridian City. So, hacking in Fissure is the only way this run can even possibly work. For all other Pokemon that we'll be using in this run though, we'll be catching them legitimately and grinding them up legitimately as needed so they learn their OHKO moves naturally. Both Horn Drill and Guillotine are learned by level up, and Horn Drill can also be taught as a purchasable TM from the Celadon department store. As for why I chose Poliwhirl, it just felt like a good middle-of-the-road option. I wanted something that could actually learn Fissure by TM, which it can, so all we're doing here is just accelerating that timetable. Also, its base stats of 385 put it in the middle of the road between weaker stuff that can learn it like Cubone and Sandshrew, and more tankier options like Snorlax and Kangaskhan. Given that this run is already a brutal premise, I'm not going to set this up in the worst possible matchup for myself like I would normally do for my runs. Poliwhirl also has really good speed, which means I shouldn't have to spend an ungodly amount of time over leveling to be able to outspeed my opponents, which is necessary to make the one-hit moves even work in the first place. We might actually be able to keep Poliwhirl at or near the levels of our opponents, which will be nice. We'll have to see though. The first thing we do is obtain our Poliwhirl and nickname it Saitama after One Punch Man. I had a theme of names I wanted to use, but I had a feeling you all would skewer me if I didn't make at least a One Punch Man reference somewhere in the one-hit knockout video. So our run starts off with an immediate rival battle in Oak's lab against our rival Tim, and as much as I talked up about how much these moves are going to miss, we land an immediate Fissure for a one-shot against the rival's Eevee. Well, that was interesting. I promise you we're going to miss though, just bear with me. Now that we're free to begin our adventure, it's time for a bit of package delivery simulator. Once we deliver Oak's parcel, I stop to catch a Pidgey for Fly later, nicknaming it Flapsity the 38th, long may they fly, and keep about grinding. I probably don't need to grind a lot at all since I'll already outspeed Brock, but I want to get some good speed DVs from knocking out Pidgey and Rattata early to help nudge our speed in the upwards direction just in case. I also take the opportunity to catch a female Nidoran west of Viridian City on Route 22. It's not going to help me now, but it can learn Horn Drill once it's evolved into Nidorina, and since I plan to make it a Nidoqueen by the end of the run where it can learn Strength, I nickname it Bisepticus the 38th, long may she lift. And at this point, I'm actually going to skip the optional rival battle west of town. The reason for this is he will have a Spearow and will be unable to hit him with Fissure, which actually alerts me to a problem I hadn't thought about, which some of you may have. We're going to need something that learns Horn Drill fast, since we're going to have at least something to hit flying types by Cerulean City. I obviously knew that Fissure wasn't going to hit flying type since it's a ground type attack. I was simply so caught up with making sure I'd have Fissure to deal with the Lavender Tower ghosts, I overlooked the fact there are mandatory flying types well before that. Don't worry though, there is an out to this without cheating. That's good. But it's going to require a lot more grinding in the early game than I had planned. That's bad. So I stopped to catch a male Nidoran on Route 22 since it can learn Horn Drill by level up. That's good. At level 38. That's bad. Fortunately, there's plenty of opportunity to grind on wild Pokemon, but they're all under level 10. It's gonna take a while, so we'll be back. Our next mandatory fight after the lab rival is a fight against this bug catcher in Viridian Forest. We get hit with a string shot on the swap in, making us slower than the Caterpie, and our Fissure doesn't work now. But on the next attempt, we get a Fissure off to bring down the Caterpie, and that allows us to progress into Pewter City. I decide to attack Brock right away since our speed is high enough, and while we do miss our first Fissure against Geodude and take some marginal damage, we do land our second. Onix is out next, and we land our next Fissure against Brock, and much faster than I thought we would, we get past Brock on just our first attempt, even with our horrible accuracy. We're going to need to keep grinding Nidoran though, so we're going to have to hit up every optional trainer along the way that we can. There's another mandatory bug catcher though just east of town, and he has 3 Pokemon. We only have 5 Fissures to play with, so we have to get lucky, which we miraculously do, and bring down 3 bugs on our first attempt. Immediately following that, we have yet another mandatory fight against this youngster, and we actually have to reset once after running out of Fissures against his Ekans. On our second attempt though, we get past him, and that moves our reset counter up to 2. Just past him though is our first major roadblock. We have to deal with at least one mandatory trainer fight here. If we try to sneak behind him, we trigger the girl who's looking right at us into a fight, so we have to face him alone, then she can become optional. And he's not easy. He has 4 Pokemon, and we only have 5 30% accurate Fissures to use. In order to get past him, we have to land 4 of our 5 Fissures. And this takes about as many tries as you might be thinking it does. Running out the probabilities, we find that I only have about a 3% chance to get past the trainer under the required rules. After 39 attempts, I finally get the luck to line up and we move past the trainer. And that moves our reset counter up to level 40, and we're not even at Mount Moon yet. At one point while grinding in Mount Moon, I have an optional battle against a trainer, and against his Caterpie, I miss 5 tackles in a row. That has to be a glitch. I don't see how this could be possible otherwise. After the fight, I actually stopped recording, went back and watched the footage just to be sure. There are no accuracy or evasion stat changes in play, and tackle is 95% accurate, so there is no reason we should have missed that many in a row. Since we're on a probability kick this video, the odds of a 5% chance occurring 5 times in a row are literally 0.00003%. This had to be some sort of Gen 1 glitch, there's just no way. Along the way through Mount Moon, I do stop and catch a Clefairy for Flash later though, nicknaming it Flashelius the 38th, long may they shine, and our next mandatory fight is against the Scientist right before the fossils. I missed too many Fissures to start with, but on our second attempt we land enough to secure the win, and our reset counter is now at 42. On our way out of the cave, there's another mandatory fight, this one against Team Rocket. And despite their pushoverness in the anime, we actually have a pretty rough time here thanks to our misses. We actually have to reset 5 additional times to finish off Team Rocket, and that moves our reset counter to 47. Once we make our way out of the cave though, we move to Cerulean City and we have 2 mandatory trainers here in the Cerulean Gym, one against a trainer and one against Misty herself. Trainer goes down quick enough without a reset, but Misty's not possible yet. While we can beat her Staryu, her Starmie outspeeds us at this level, so we have to level up to beat her. So we're going to add a reset counter to that and bring us to 48. We also can't go up Nugget Bridge yet because we don't have Horn Drill on Nidoran to hit the Spearow, so we're going to have to grind. West of Cerulean City there is a patch of grass where we can do it. It's our only option, so here we go. And just like the grind grinds before it, it is as tedious as you'd expect. The Pokemon are all relatively low, which makes knocking them out in one shot almost a given, but we're not grinding up just one Pokemon here, I have to grind up 2. And they have to be significantly higher level, so this will be a while. Admittedly, I don't know at what level the Poliwhirl needs to be to outspeed Starmie, but its base speed isn't an ungodly amount higher than ours, so maybe in just a few levels. We can't go anywhere else though until we get to Bill, which is going to require us to fight our rival who has a Spearow. So we're going to have to get Nidoran to level 38 before we can do anything, because that's when it learns Horn Drill. This is where we're going to sink a lot of time right here. And remember, Nugget Bridge right after here is full of mandatory trainers. So woohoo, yay, hooray! So after a full episode and a half worth of NCIS grinding on Nidoran and Poliwhirl later, our Poliwhirl is up to level 27 and is now fast enough to outspeed Starmie. Admittedly, we may have been able to do this a few levels earlier, I didn't try every time. In any event, after 2 failed attempts, we get to Misty on our 3rd and bring her down with our fissures. With a reset counter of 50, now we just have to level up Nidoran 8 more levels to get Horn Drill. Finally, after what feels like an excruciatingly long amount of time, we level up to 38 and Nidoran finally learns Horn Drill. Now we can finally progress north up Nugget Bridge now that we can face our rival Tim. I also choose to let Colin evolve into Nidorino at this point. He actually should have evolved to Nidorino 12 levels ago, but Nidoran actually learns Horn Drill a few levels earlier than Nidorino does, so it made sense to keep him at Nidoran. Now that he's Nidorino, I actually go ahead and just use a Moonstone I picked up in Mount Moon to evolve him up to Nidoking, because why not? I still have one left for the female Nidoran, which will eventually become Nidoqueen. Oh, and now we can finally start leveling her since we can finally progress. Our first attempt against our rival ends after missing 5 Horn Drills, as does our second. I guess we were having a lot better luck earlier with just Fissure. Finally, on our 3rd attempt, we managed to knock out Spearow and get past it, and using what's left of our Horn Drills and Poliwhirl's Fissures, we're able to secure a win against our rival, get a couple of levels on our next Nidoran, and progress up the bridge, bringing our reset counter to 52. And so at this point, Nugget Bridge has several mandatory fights all in a row. Remember I mentioned areas like this were going to be annoying. I'm not going to recap areas like this on an individual battle detail, because honestly these fights, while mandatory, aren't important to the story, and I don't need this video to be an hour long. So suffice to say, for areas like this, I will update the reset counter as we go through, but I won't detail every fight. In this particular instance, we had to reset 7 total times in our trek across the bridge, mostly due to running out of Horn Drills against Pidgey or Zubat, but eventually we crossed the bridge and now have another mass of mandatory trainers waiting for us between Bill. But as painful as Nugget Bridge was, the route towards Bill is actually remarkably peaceful. We didn't have to reset once against any of the trainers, and several are actually optional if you take the proper route through the path between them. And so, this gives us some great opportunity for some switch training on our female Nidoran, and we're actually able to bring her up 11 entire levels and evolve it to Nidorina. Speaking of Nidorina though, for some reason it can actually learn Horn Drill by TM despite not having a horn. But I go ahead and decide to use my second Moonstone on it and bring her up to Nidoqueen to get some more oomph on the team anyway. At least the ability to take more hits in battle while we're missing our attacks is nice. As clean as the route to Bill was, we do have to reset once against the Team Rocket trainer who stole Dig, so that brings our reset counter up to an even 60 on our way out of Cerulean City. Though it doesn't stay at 60 for long, as this last just outside of Vermilion City with her 3 Pidgeys is a pain, since we only have 5 Horn Drills to hit it. Predictably, she takes 24 tries to get past, bringing the total count up to 83. Though refreshingly, her friend just below her is a quick 2-shot sweep with no resets required. Now that we're into Vermilion City, we can take on the SS Anne next. Very fortunately for us, every trainer on this boat except for our rival is optional to face, so under the terms I laid out at the start, I can use my regular moves to battle them and gain some valuable experience across my team. When we finally do get to our rival, we win on our very first attempt with a combination of Fissure and Horn Drill from our squad. With that, we can get the HM for cut from Captain McAllister and proceed into Lieutenant Surge's gym without incident on the SSN and without having to add a single reset to our counter while we're on the boat. Though before I can get to the gym, I have to catch a Diglett to use Cut, a move it couldn't learn in red and blue but was given in yellow, nickname it Snipticus the 38th, long may they cut, and make my way to Surge's gym. So these trainers are technically optional depending on where the switches end up in the trash cans. If the switches happen to be in the left side cans, at least one trainer is going to be mandatory. So when it becomes apparent that's where the switches are going to be, I come back a second time and the switches reset positions every time you come in the door, and this time they're on the right side of the gym, making all 3 trainers optional. After defeating them, I make a move on Lieutenant Surge, who I actually forgot only has Raichu in yellow, making him an easy one-shot sweep with Fissure from Nidoking. Another fairly difficult trainer is just east of Cerulean City, which takes us 7 resets to get past. She brings us up to 90 resets thus far. Fortunately for us, the rest of the way towards Rock Tunnel is actually pretty easy going, with either mostly optional trainers or some really good luck with the couple of mandatory ones that we had. I do have to make frequent trips back to the Pokemon Center to heal up and replenish our power points. Once we get to Rock Tunnel, it's actually not too bad. Some of the trainers are optional, which gives us some good grinding fodder, and the rock types are good for bubble beam and double kick grinding. The only real obstacle is actually the last mandatory girl in the cave, as she takes us 4 resets to finally beat her. That brings our reset counter to 94, and we make our way into Lavender Town. We're not staying here long though, we make an immediate beeline to Celadon City, grinding on all the optional trainers along the way. Once I get to Celadon City, I make a run for the Pokemart. Not only can I get cheaper healing options like lemonade and soda, but we can also buy the TM for Horn Drill here, which I immediately stock up on. First up is our Nidoqueen, who can now finally get in on the mandatory battles as opposed to just switch training and wild encounters. I'm not going to expand my team beyond this yet though. I will be adding more members soon, but for now, at least we have the additional Horn Drills on Nidoqueen to expand the team. I make my way to Erica at the Grass Gym, and any way you slice it, we have 1 mandatory trainer plus Erica who we have to face. Unfortunately, if we get hit with Stun Spore, that chunks our speed and makes us slower, which makes our moves ineffective. They also like to use Wrap, which is brutally annoying in Gen 1 as it keeps us from attacking turn over turn, which makes these fights painstakingly slower than they need to be. All in all though, we actually managed to get past the mandatory trainer and Erica herself on just 3 attempts. That brings us up to 96 for the reset counter, which actually isn't nearly as bad as I thought it might be moving into this challenge. 4 badges in, we're halfway home. At this point though, I have to clear Team Rocket out of the casino to get access to Giovanni. Pretty much all the trainers are optional though, but a couple are mandatory. Ultimately though, we get what we need out of the casino and then fight our way against Giovanni, and he only takes 2 tries. That combined with our mandatory fight at the poster, and we only have 2 total resets for the duration of the game corner, which puts us up to 98. Now that we've got the Silph Scope, we move back to Lavender Town, and our next mandatory fight is against Tower Tim, who we defeat on our very first attempt. From there, we scale the tower without too much trouble. Team Rocket actually takes a couple of attempts, again, mostly due to Arbok's glare paralyzing us, which again makes us slower and ineffective. After 4 total resets in the tower though, that brings us to 102 resets, we defeat Team Rocket, rescue Mr. Fuji, and secure the Pokeflute for all our trouble. Now we can make our way to Cycling Road and down to Fuchsia City, but before we do that, I go back to the department store in Celadon and buy a Water Stone to evolve Poliwhirl into Poliwrath, which is honestly something I should have done the first time I went to the store, but I completely forgot to do. From there, we make our way onto Cycling Road, and it's time to expand our team to another member. On Cycling Road, at 35% of the time, Ponyta appear. This is the only place you can get them in Pokemon Yellow. These guys can learn Horn Drill, for some reason. Just like with Nidorina, they literally don't have a horn, but okay. We nickname it Ryan to go with our Colin reference, and from there we set about finding some levels on Cycling Road since all the trainers here are optional. We make our way to Fuchsia City and head straight for the Safari Zone to get some things out of the way. Our first step is to get the gold teeth and the HM for Surf out of the Safari Zone. Then, after having finished that, I go back into the Safari Zone to catch a pincer to use for Guillotine. It's the same type as Horn Drill, but it offers a bit of variety for the video at least. I nicknamed the pincer Wayne to keep the Whose Line Is It Anyway cast assembling. But now we have to level up Pinsir to learn it. Fortunately, there are loads of optional trainers just east of Fuchsia City in this southeast corner of the map. This area is completely optional to beating the game, so it's an excellent place to get some points for leveling. While we're actually taking care of some of the mundane grinding, I go pick up the Super Rod and I go fish up a level 25 Kingler back north of Cerulean City. At level 25, it's already going to know Guillotine at this level, but we have to level it up anyway to raise its speed and keep it on the same fighting field as the rest of our squad. I nickname it Greg to complete a 4-person set of the Whose Line Is It Anyway cast, and this will likely be our lineup for the rest of the run. I return back to Fuchsia City and make another run at Koga's gym. And while I do have to reset once on the sole mandatory trainer here, which brings us up to 103, Koga on the other hand is a first try victory thanks to some great work by Pinsir and his Guillotine. Now we go back to Saffron City and clear out the Silph Co building. Just like the southeast corner of the map, virtually all the trainers here are not mandatory, so it's a great chance to get some easy optional experience, especially on Kingler. After clearing out most, if not all the trainers, both mandatory and optional, with only one reset bringing us to 104, we make our way to the rival Fievel fight, and after a lot of misses and even losing a few members of our team, we're able to get past him on our very first attempt. That was rocky, dicey, whatever way you want to put it, but we heal up, replenish our power points, and try again at Giovanni. And despite his Persian outspeeding Kingler, we managed to defeat him on the first attempt without incident. We even get a few bucks for our trouble since Persian used Payday. Hey, I'll take it, thanks for the tip. Now that Team Rocket's been cleared out of the building, we can go across town and pick on Sabrina, the Psychic Gym Leader. And she turns out to actually be faster us, rendering our moves ineffective. We're gonna have to level up in order to beat her. It took 2 resets to arrive at that knowledge, which brings our reset counter up to 106. And even though I have a couple of Surf users on the team, I go back to pick up the free Lapras so we can continue our lineage, nicknaming it Aquades the 38th. Long may they swim, and I head down to Cinnabar Island instead. We nearly have the same problem here as we did with Sabrina though, as several of our Pokemon are outsped by either Blaine's Rapidash or Arcanine. Fortunately, we have just enough Pokemon with just enough speed, landing just enough hits, that we're able to defeat Blaine and secure another badge for the book. I'm still not convinced we have what it takes for Sabrina just yet, so let's get a few levels and try again. While grinding, I decided to once again go back and visit the Pokemart in Celadon and buy some Carbos to boost my speed stats. They're expensive, but I buy quite a few and start distributing them across my team. This will hopefully help us out. But even after dousing the team with Carbos, we're still being outsped by Alakazam. We're just gonna have to outlevel him. We'll manage, but it's gonna take a while. That cost us a reset though, so we're up to 107. Finally, after what felt like an ungodly amount of time grinding in the Pokemon Mansion to get basically my entire team up to level 50, I try Sabrina again. And some of our team are still being outsped, but this time we're actually able to outspeed the Alakazam with at least Rapidash, so that tells me that when we're dealing with the champion's Alakazam, we shouldn't have to be too ungodly overleveled for it. But we're definitely gonna have to level our team up though. This isn't gonna do it. But we do manage to beat Sabrina and secure our next badge though. We make our way back to Viridian City, and now it's finally time to take on Giovanni at the ground gym and the 8th gym leader of the game. But it's not going very well. We're being outsped again, so we're gonna have to level up some more. There's another reset to 108. On a hunch though, I decide to actually try again and hope we just don't take a ton of damage to Rapidash. And this time we have fantastic luck as we land 4 Fissures in a row, which is just a 0.81% chance of happening. While we do miss our 5th against Rhydon, our 6th lands and we sweep through Giovanni's team. We'll definitely need to level Rapidash as its speed is going to be essential for later. Though we defeat Giovanni, we get the TM for Fissure and I immediately teach it to Colin, our Nidoking. That'll give us an extra set of OHKO moves that we can use all in the same Pokemon. That's nice. 2 for the price of 1. But before we head to the Pokemon League though, it's time for a little bit of housekeeping. I start by going around the entire region picking up every Ether, Elixir, and PowerPoint up that's available to us. There are actually a couple more that are available post-game. For some reason, I've never understood why you put items and TMs, etc. in post-game areas like that. And there is one more that we can pick up on the way to the Pokemon League. Normally, it's not super critical to get all of them, but since we're only using 30% accurate attacks, we need every chance we have with them. Now we do have one final pre-Elite Four fight against our rival Tim, but between Rapidash, Pinsir, and Poliwrath, we have a decent enough time on our first attempt and sweep through his team without incident. Though we did lose Rapidash to Clamp in the process. Now we can press on through Victory Road and into the Elite Four. Victory Road is mostly uneventful, though I do take the time to battle all the optional trainers just to boost our XP as much as we can. The highest level Pokemon we're going to be facing in the Elite Four is a level 65 Flareon with the Champion. It doesn't have a high base speed though, so we probably don't have to worry a lot there. What I am more worried about is the level 59 Alakazam that our rival will have, and the level 60 Aerodactyl that Lance will have. Those have some of the highest speeds in the game, so we're gonna need to be at least a few levels past them to be able to deal with them. I may just have to get Rapidash up to level 70 before we move to the Elite Four, just to be safe. After several literal hours of grinding, I get my entire squad up to at least level 60 and decide it's time to make an attempt at the Elite Four. I also arrange my team in ascending order of speed. Greg, our Kingler, is slowest with a speed stat of 129. Next out is Bisepticus, our Nidoqueen, Saitama, our Poliwrath, Wayne, our Pinsir, Colin, our Nidoking, and lastly, our fastest Pokemon is Ryan the Rapidash with a speed stat of 169. I'm not sure that's going to be fast enough for Agatha's Gengar, Lance's Aerodactyl, or the champion's Alakazam, but I do have 9 rare candies, so hopefully we can do it without coming back out. Let's give this a try. Agatha's out first, and Greg the Kingler is outspeeding her Pokemon, which is a good sign. Unfortunately, our 30% accurate moves are missing a lot, and we're hemorrhaging power points. Fortunately though, we eventually deal with her squad, but we also lose Nidoqueen in the process, so I have to burn a revive and a full restore. Ultimately though, that doesn't matter. Once we get to Bruno, we just whiff everything. I get past his opening Onix, but then whiffed like 15 attacks in a row on the Hitmonchan. I decide to go ahead and just reset, since I doubt I'll get the luck I need with just Rapidash, and I don't want to blow all my power point replenishments this early in the run. That'll add 1 to the reset counter and bring us up to 109. Our next attempt at Lorelei goes about as well as the first, though Poliwrath did blow all his Fissures in the process. Kingler actually did a good job bringing down 3 of her Pokemon though. After I heal up, we make another pass at Bruno, and this time he goes much better. Pinsir again brings down the opening Onix, but I also have to cycle in a few other members of the squad as we take big damage off a critical Earthquake. We actually don't have a great team as far as type weaknesses are concerned, but we're gonna have to make do. Fortunately though, luck is on our side here and we managed to bring Bruno down, and we have a fair bit of power point left remaining into Agatha. I haven't even had to use my Ethers yet. This is looking nice. Or at least it would be if I hadn't realized I didn't have enough Fissures to beat over her team. Well, there's our 110th reset. Time to ether up Poliwrath for this one, and it pays immediate dividends as we're able to use Fissure to beat down her ghosts. Remember, this is Gen 1, so there are no abilities, so her ghosts don't have Levitate. Nidoking puts in some good work bringing down a lot of her squad, but ultimately runs out of power points against Arbok and nearly faints. I swap back to Poliwrath, but then get hit with a Glare, which slows us down. Our only choice is to bring in Rapidash, who fortunately lands a Horn Drill to end the fight. Our team's pretty shaken up, and we're running out of power points, but we have just 2 battles left. We heal up, top off with ethers, and make a pass at Lance. Which immediately ends with Gyarados sweeping our 3 Horn Drill users right out of the gate with Hydro Pump. Well, like I said, type weaknesses are pretty bad. Now with 111 resets on the board, let's try that again. Our second attempt goes better, albeit we still get hit with a deluge from Hydro Pump right out of the gate. Ultimately, I goofed up a bit swapping into Kingler, who didn't have any guillotines, and Poliwrath swaps into a Thunder Wave, rendering it useless. But fortunately, Nidoking comes off the bench clutch. I forgot he had 2 one-shot moves for some reason, and he's able to fissure down the Dragonairs, though we do take some big damage from Bubble Beam. Aerodactyl comes out, but we fortunately outspeed it with Nidoking, and that's actually really good, because that means Rapidash is going to outspeed the champion's Alakazam for sure. Unfortunately for us, the Dragonite brings down Nidoking, but Rapidash gallops in and Horn Drills it down to save the day. Now that we're going into the champion fight, I heal up everyone, ether up everyone, and it's all hands on deck. Can we do this on our very first attempt? Let's find out. I move Kingler back to the front of the party, and out first is the rival Sandslash. We miss our first guillotine, take weak damage from Poison Sting before we bring it down with our second. Alakazam is out second, and I goofed and I left Kingler in, who I knew was going to be slower than Alakazam, which allowed it to get a free shot against Rapidash on the swap in. We get hit with Kinesis, which chunks our already brutal accuracy, and we're forced to just stand there and get beaten down with Psychics. With our fastest Pokemon down, I swap to Calm the Nidoking, who being Poison type is weak to Psychic, but he also outspeeds the Alakazam, and he lands his first Fissure for the knockout. Exeggutor is out next, but goes down immediately to a Fissure, and we're halfway home. Magneton is next, and only hits us with a couple of Screeches before going down to Horn Drill. Cloyster is out next, and we whiff 3 Horn Drills in a row, which allows Cloyster to bring down Nidoking. I swap back to Kingler, who's fortunately faster, and after missing a Guillotine, weathering a Spike Cannon, we land our next Guillotine to bring down Cloyster. Last out is the champion's Flareon, and I decide to bookend this run by bringing out Poliwrath, our starter, who whiffs a Fissure, watches Flareon set up a Reflect, and then go down to a second Fissure, and there we go, that's the run. We defeat Flareon, defeat Tim the champion, and win the game. We've just beaten Pokemon Yellow using only the one-hit knockout moves. The credits roll and we get our squad into the Hall of Fame. Our final reset counter comes in at 111. Would have been nice to see an even 100, but you know what, it is what it is. Luck could have certainly made that number a lot higher. We had some really frustrating mandatory trainers early in this run, but ultimately the gym leaders in Elite Four didn't require nearly as many attempts as I went into this expecting. It was so weird to me that the most difficult trainer we had was a random youngster east of Pewter City. But thanks again so much for watching, guys. I really hope you all enjoyed. We're in December now, so I plan to do a few wintry based challenges leading up to Christmas, but we'll see what happens. As always, guys, I appreciate any suggestions you have down in the comments below or in the run suggestions tab over on my Discord server with a link down in the description. Until next video, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. Go catch 'em all.